Everyone. Also, good morning to the head of the program of education, English education, Mr. Yusuf Supriyono, and also the honorable of the lecturers. First of all, let us thanks to the Almighty Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Because of His blessings, we are able to come here to join in today's webinar series. I'm Rizky Katapani, the moderator of today's webinar. I'm very pleased to see all of you here and welcome all of you to this webinar. I hope you're all in a great health, mood, and spirit in joining this webinar. Before we begin this webinar series today, I would like to read some of the regulations. First, this webinar will last for 1.5 hours. Second, the only language used to communicate is English. Third, all participants are suggested to take notes during the presentation. Fourth, all participants must turn off the audio or mic during the presentation. The presentation will be held in 5 to 7 minutes for each presenter. Sixth, the moderator will set the time to remind for presentation. Seventh, Q&A will cover the presentation. Questions can be typed in the chat box in the earlier presentation, or anyone who is interested to talking directly to the presenters is pleased to raise your hand. We will facilitate you if we still have time. 8. If you could not get your answer, the presenters will send the answer via email. Right. Before we start the presentation, I would like to introduce you to the speakers who are going to be presenting the materials today. They are Hilda Sri Kasturi, Tita Juliani, Saril Lestari, Tita Yuning Tias, Muhammad Anif Abdullah. Today, they'll present about vocabulary defines your English competence, some evidence and solutions. Well, without further ado, I'd like to welcome our presenters to start the presentation. First is Saril Lestari with her material about adding students' English words with songs. So, aren't you curious? If so, you can listen to this material. So, Sari, the time is yours.
All right, thank you. Can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes, loud and clear.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, moderator, and my lovely lecturer, Mrs. Arini, for giving me the opportunity. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending this session. I really appreciate it. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Saril Lestari from English Education Department in Siliwangi University. What I'm going to talk today is about adding students' English words with songs. All right, everyone. Nowadays, all of you like listening English songs, right? You can answer in the chat box. And however, have you ever realized that listening English songs can increase our vocabulary mastery? If you don't, I will explain. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. I'm sorry. Next slide. All right, I divided my presentation in 4 major points. The first, I would like you to give you an overview what is vocabulary and the importance of vocabulary mastery. Second is, does songs help vocabulary learning? Third, strategies to optimize songs for vocabulary mastery. And the last is conclusion. Without any further ado, let's start this presentation. Nurkolip in 2019 stated that when students' habit in listening to English music increase, it will bring them about the enhancement of their vocabulary mastery. There are many definitions of vocabulary proposed by some experts. It is very important for we know what is vocabulary before discussing vocabulary mastery. And then, according to H. and Brown 1995, the term vocabulary refers to a list or set of words for a particular language or a list of words that individual speakers of language use. And then mastering a large number of vocabularies is very important for foreign language learners in developing the foreign language skills. It aligns with Susanto Pajelinda in 2016, who said that vocabulary mastery plays an important role in the foreign language skills, and it has to be considered that vocabulary mastery is one of the needed components of language. Next slide, please. And have you faced difficulty in vocabulary mastery? I think the most of learners have the same problems. So to solve these problems, we have to find out the best strategy or method to enrich our vocabulary. And then using English songs is one of the most effective ways to increase students' vocabulary mastery because almost students like listening songs. And then next to the next point is about, does songs help vocabulary learning? Valianti in 2017 stated that students who learn English by listening songs achieve more vocabularies than who didn't. In addition, Sari in 2014 revealed that English songs would allow students to rely and assist them in absorbing the provided material, which would result in them gaining more knowledge of English, especially their vocabulary mastery. And then how song can help vocabulary learning? The first one, by using song, the atmosphere of classroom becomes more relaxed and comfortable. According to Nambiar in 1980, songs introduce an atmosphere of fun and informality in the classroom that is far more conducive environment for language learning than a strictly regimented atmosphere. The second one is, while listening to the songs, students are influenced to respond what the song tells about. And then it means that songs can encourage students to have motivation to learn vocabulary. And the last one, Wardian Sayadaw in 2019 stated that students who have a high level of vocabulary mastery will also have a high level of listening habits to English songs. This way is such a simple way for them to catch and memorize the vocabulary. And the next point is about strategies to optimize songs for vocabulary mastery. The first important thing is to choose the right or appropriate song. You can start by choosing a song that you like or interested so that the learning process is maximized. The second one is find the lyrics of the songs. Looking for the lyrics will also make it easier for us to know the vocab and pronunciation of the song so that we don't get confused in learning it. And then next is write down the vocab and keep a running list. Next, you try to record every vocab in the sentence of the song's lyrics. You can keep on sharpening this so that you have the ability to memorize as many as possible. And then find the meaning of the word that you don't know right away. You can translate that word to know the meaning, and you can do it by dictionary or online dictionary. And then next, understand or master the songs. This is the next important thing. Understanding the song and mastering the lyrics of the song is important so that we can easily, while we learning English, while singing and the lyric of the songs. And the last one is come sing along. You can try to express yourself by singing to the music or song that we listen to repeatedly. Next slide, please. I think we're gonna move to the last point. Yeah, it is conclusion. It can be concluded that habit in listening English music has contribution to vocabulary mastery. Therefore, it is suggested for students who want to improve their vocabulary mastery, they can use listening English songs as one of alternative ways. And then for the teacher, English songs should be applied in the learning process in order to increase students' vocabulary mastery. And before I close this presentation, there is a quotation from Jim Rohn. He stated that vocabulary enables us to interpret and to express. If you have a limited vocabulary, you will also have a limited vision and limited future. Next slide, please. All right, let's move on to my references of my topic. You can see on this slide. Well, I think that's enough for me. Thank you for your great attention. And I'm sorry if I made a lot of mistake, but I hope what I have said can be useful for you all. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I give it back to the moderator.
Thank you, Sari, for your amazing presentation on your material. So, listening to English music is one of the alternatives for students who want to improve their vocabulary mastery because it's fun, it's enjoyable, and you have a lot to choose from. So when we do something that we like, it's going to be easier to remember. Once again, thank you, Sari, for your presentation. Let's move on to the next presenter. It's Hilda Sri Kasturi. With her material about reading novels, always various your words. Prove it. So, to you, all of you who are who like to reading novels, maybe this material is suited for you. So, to Hilda, the time is yours.
All right, thank you, moderator, for giving me the opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to say thank you for coming in this webinar. It's great to see you all. Well, let me introduce myself first. I'm Hilda Sri Kasturi. Today on this occasion, as you can see on the screen, I'm going to talk about vocabulary with the titles Reading Novels Always Varies Your Words and Prove It. In this presentation, I will divide it into three sections. First, I will explain you why is vocabulary important, and then I will explain how to improve students' vocabulary, and finally, you will know why novels can improve students' vocabulary. Next slide. All right, without any further ado, let's start our discussion about why is vocabulary important. Well, as we know that vocabulary is an important key for anyone who wants to master a certain language, especially English, right? Because without good vocabulary mastery, anyone will have difficulty in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Therefore, vocabulary is an important element to support students' English skills. Well, the importance of vocabulary in acquiring new language has been suggested by several experts. FOSS 2004 say that without vocabulary, second language learners cannot perform the language. The learners will be passive and not responsive in communication. In addition, Herman, Wood, and Kisser 2009 also state that vocabulary development is directly proportional to language development. It means that the more vocabulary students acquire, the better language skills they can perform. And this is supported by Nation 2001, which says that rich vocabulary make it easier for students to perform listening, reading, speaking, and writing skills. So from some of the description above, we can conclude that good vocabulary mastery helps students to absorb more knowledge such as listening, reading, speaking, and writing skills. And then, how to improve students' vocabulary? The way we can do is to provide sufficient and comprehensive input through reading. It is a good way to increase students' vocabulary, as question 1982 states that one way humans acquire language is by receiving comprehensive input. And this is in line with Murtiningsih, Puspitasari, and Rataka 2016. They states that reading is one of the receptive skills that can provide sufficient input to students. So by reading books, students are able to absorb language input, especially vocabulary aspects such as spelling, word meaning, part of speech, and word form. Next slide. Well, of course, the thing that must be considered in providing comprehensive input for students is to provide good reading materials that can motivate students to learn English, right? And one of the reading materials that are believed to be able to motivate students and be useful in providing students vocabulary development is novels. I'm sure that everyone has already know what is novels. Novels are literary work and reading materials that can be used for extensive reading, which is usable for developing vocabulary. This is in line with Khatib, Rizai, and Direction 2011. They explain that the use of literary works such as novels in learning English will provide students with authentic language learning materials and increase students' motivations. In addition, Murtiningsih 2016 also states that one of the benefits of extensive reading is that extensive reading presents a broad and in-depth vocabulary and allows students to gain access to advanced vocabulary. So by providing input in the form of reading material, it will be able to increase students' vocabulary because by reading, students can find a lot of information needed, and also the selection of novels as teaching materials for students can provide benefits including increasing students' motivation in learning English, and of course, students will get new vocabulary. Next slide. Next slide, please. All right, so now why novel can improve students' vocabulary? According to Jerry in 2004, he stated that novel is ideal for developing skills and integrating several skills because of its varied length and content. So one of the skills that can be developed by reading novels is understanding and collecting the words that students can find in the novel. Why? This is because because the novels generally have long number of beats. So with a very long number of beats, this will provide a lot of varied foreign language vocabulary. And of course, it will make it easier for students to find a lot of new vocabulary. Beside that, the novel is authentic material. According to Tomlinson 2008, he said that placing authenticity is one of the requirements for good teaching materials. By reading novels as authentic materials, students will get more opportunities to know the target language because authentic materials provide original expression and words used in countries where English is used as a daily life. So one of the reasons why the use of novels is effective to help students' vocabulary is because the novel is literary work that has language that seems free and thus presenting a lot of vocabulary that is commonly used in everyday life in countries where English is spoken. And besides being an authentic material in learning English, Tomlinson 2003 also stated that the novel also contains high level of high frequency words and considerably low level of low frequency words. It means that this novel has very diverse vocabulary, ranging from popular or most frequently used words to words that are rarely encountered. This shows that this novel has many variations of words that will make it easier for students to increase their vocabulary. And this is in line with Nation 2001. He said that high portion of high frequency words will help students to understand the story and develop their vocabulary. And not only that, the novel also literary work in the form of narrative with various variations, starting from the theme of the story taken. It can be love story about social life, politics, fantasy, and etc. Therefore, with many variations, the selection of novels to develop students' vocabulary can be adjusted to the level of students' abilities. Next slide, please. All right, as a final point, I'd like to conclude my presentation that novels are reading materials that can be used for extensive reading, which is usable for vocabulary development. First, because novels are fun to read, they are also authentic, so they offer a lot of native expression and vocabulary. It is used in countries where English is used as a daily language. And then the novel also has many variations, ranging from terms to various word levels, so that the use of novels can be adjusted to the level of students' abilities. And according to Duff, Townsend, and Katz 2015, they stated that reading books can provide key opportunities for advancement in vocabulary development. It means that the more you read, the more vocabulary you have. Next slide. All right, I think that's all I can say. And this is my references for my presentation. I'm so sorry if I have a lot of mistakes during my presentation. Thank you very much for your great attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I give it back to the moderator.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Hilda, for your amazing material and also your presentation. So, novel. It is a reading material that can be used for vocabulary development because novel is a fun reading material and it can provide comfort for the readers and also has authentic materials. Once again, thank you, Hilda, for your presentation. Let's move on to the next presenter is Redita Giuliani with her material about movie subtitles and students' English vocabulary size. Always work. This is one of the interesting material. How movie subtitles can help English students with their vocabulary size. We should listen to this material. So, to Redita, the time is yours.
All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thanks for moderator who has given me the opportunity to deliver a presentation. And also I would like to say thank you for coming to all participants for attending this occasion. It's great to see you all. All right, let me introduce myself. I am Redita Juliani Supratman with students number 202120007. Today, I'd like to discuss about movie subtitles and student English vocabulary size always work. Is there anyone here who likes to watch movies? Very fun, isn't it? Or maybe there are those who don't like watching movies? You can comment in the chat box. Next slide, please. So here I divided my presentation into three parts. The first one is movie subtitles as a medium to learn new vocabulary. And the second one is tips and steps how to learn English with movie subtitles. And the last is conclusion. Next slide, please. All right, we will start with the first material. Movie subtitles as a medium to learn new vocabulary. Can you imagine what if a language had no vocabulary? As a part or component of a language, vocabulary plays an important role and cannot be separated from other components such as phonology, structure, or grammar. According to Hornby, 1984, page 959, the term vocabulary is a collection of several words that are combined so that they have a meaning. Vocabulary cannot be separated from the four skills in language, such as reading, writing, listening, and speaking. As a humans in modern times and as millennials, of course, we know that technology is now developing very rapidly. We can learn vocabulary through gadgets, iPad or laptops or something else. One of the unique things when we learn a language is that we can learn it through popular culture products. Movies are one of them. Watching movie is a fun activity. That's why learning English by watching movie is more fun than learning through books. Not only that, watching movies also offers other things that are not listed in the book. For example, the way of pronunciation and accent. What's more, movie feature visual as well as audio that can make it easier for us to learn English. According to Karkas and Sarikoban, 2012, show that watching movies with English subtitles can make you more easy to get meaning from foreign language. With a visual media equipped with English subtitles, it can facilitate the level of understanding students in their vocabulary mastery. This means that their focus in other than reading subtitles, students also hear how to pronounce the subtitles spoken by native speakers, actor and actresses in the movie. Subtitles with English as the target in the movie encourage them, especially in vocabulary skills, as well as others such as listening and reading. Next slide, please. Tips and steps how to learn English with movie subtitles. Choosing a movie. First of all, we have to choose the movie we are going to watch. The selected movie must be interesting according to us, so that we don't feel bored and lost our interest in learning English when watching it. If we like comedy movies, watch comedy movies. If we like horror movies, watch horror movies, and so on. I recommended some movies that we can watch to learn vocabulary such as Toy Story, Harry Potter, Finding Nemo, Frozen, and many more. And then using subtitles. Of course, subtitles really help us to learn English through movies. If we are still beginner level, we can turn on Indonesian subtitles. Indonesian subtitles in English movie can help us learn the meaning of spoken English phrases, idioms, or expressions. Use the subtitles to capture the gist or main idea from the conversations. And the last is repeating and understanding. Repeat the part or scenes that we like from the movie. While repeating it, try to pronounce the spoken dialogue to practice your pronunciation. We can also repeat parts of the movie that we do not understand, and we only need to understand the essence or overall meaning of the spoken language. We can write down a word or phrase and look up its meaning in dictionary. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. Conclusion. It can be concluded that watching movies with subtitles as audiovisual media are powerful tools for help in learning vocabulary, because some people think reading books can be boring and tiring. This is different from watching movies. Watching is fun and entertaining activity that can make us feel like we're not learning because it's fun. Watching movies can also motivate us to learn through movies more often and diligently. Students can see read the language from what they hear. It is improves listening skill and reading skill as receptive skills. Therefore, using movies with subtitles is not only fun, but also effective as a medium for learning vocabulary. Next slide, please. And here's my references. Thank you for your attention. Hopefully the material that I bring can be useful for us. I'm sorry if I made a mistake. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I give it back to moderator.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Ridita, for your amazing material and also your presentation. So surprisingly, subtitles are powerful tools in teaching and learning English because, again, for some people, they think that reading books can be boring and tiring. But it's different with watching because it's fun and it also motivates us to learn through movies more often and diligently. Once again, thank you, Ridita, for your presentation. Let's move on to the next presenter. Is Tita Iningtyas with her material about short stories, long impact on vocabulary mastery. Short stories. Aren't you curious how big the impact is? Well, we should listen to this material. So, to Tita, the time is yours.
All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. How are you today? I hope you all are in a good condition. First of all, I would like to say thank you to all the participants for attending this webinar, and then thank you to the moderator for giving me the opportunity. Well, let me introduce myself. I'm Tita Iningtyas Sandika. In this occasion, I'd like to talk about short story, a long impact on vocabulary mastery. So I divided my presentation into four sections. The first one is about the definition and the importance of vocabulary. The second one is short story as the media to improve vocabulary mastery. Third, benefits and strategies. And the last is conclusion. Well, without any further ado, let's start to discuss to the first material. All right. So what is vocabulary? According to Hatch and Brown, 1995, vocabulary is a list or set of words for a particular language, or a list or set of words that individual speaker of language might use. In simple terms, it refers to the familiar words used in a language. According to Richard and Rogers, 2001, vocabulary is one of the important elements of language proficiency, for it is the basis of how well learners speak, write, listen, and read. It means that vocabulary is one of the most important language materials that must be mastered. So by knowing enough vocabulary, the students will make able to communicate, because vocabulary is the core of English. But of course, I know that everyone has difficulties in developing their vocabulary, so that short story is one of the media that can be used to develop students' vocabulary. Next slide, please. All right, now Noor, 2017 explained that short story is a fictional prose narrative, and short stories tend to be more concise and to the point than longer works of fiction such as novel. Then, short stories contain all intrinsic elements such as characters, plot, and then setting, theme, and point of view that can be read in one setting. As a literary work, short story is interesting things to read and talk about. By Choice and Fisher 2004 said that using short story is an effective way to learn vocabulary in English foreign language. Students who read widely have extensive vocabulary. By using short stories, students feel more enjoyable and happier in learning vocabulary. Therefore, short story can increase students' motivation to develop English language skills. In addition, teachers can create various contexts in which students can use language to dialogue and then exchange information, even convey their thoughts. Next slide, please. All right, by reading short stories, students will get several benefits on their vocabulary knowledge. The first, get new vocabulary. Short stories provide opportunities for students to learn new words. It can help EFL learners to understand not only the meaning of the newly learned word, but also in use in context. Second, motivate students to learn vocabulary. Short stories make it easier to learn vocabulary because short stories are fun for students. Therefore, it can definitely make learning and vocabulary development memorable. Third, help students to understand the meaning of new words through context. Short stories can keep readers guessing what will happen next and therefore involve them in the process actively and help them understand the meaning of new words they encounter through context. And the last is help in retaining newly learned words through dialogue in the story. As we know, explaining the meaning of new word or the meaning in the context is difficult. However, short stories provide context and use of new words in the form of conversation or dialogue between the characters in the story. And then how to develop vocabulary using short stories. The first one, we can write the unfamiliar word. If you find some unfamiliar word in the story, you can make a list of the unfamiliar words and then you can find out the meaning of the word. Second, read the story several times. When students read the story several times, it makes students repeat the word unconsciously in various forms. And as a result, they had no difficulty in remembering the words they had just encountered. Third, summarize the story. By summarizing a short story significantly can improve students' vocabulary. Students can summarize the story using their own words without saying the original story or the original text. And the last is retell the story. As we know that everyone has their own style language that makes that person to re-express or the story with the vocabulary that he or she has mastered, which is certainly different from other people. All right, it can be concluded that vocabulary plays an important role in language. If you don't have a wide vocabulary, it will be difficult to communicate. So that short stories are one of the media that can improve students' vocabulary achievement. Short story help them develop vocabulary more easily because the context of the story provides effective clues to get the meaning of unfamiliar words. And here, Aldous Huxley said that words play an enormous part in our lives and therefore deserving of the closest study. All right, next slide, please. So here is my references, and I think that's all from me. I'm sorry if I have any mistake. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'll give it back to the moderator.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Tita, for your amazing presentation of your material. So, short stories are one of the media to improve students' vocabulary achievement. It can help them to develop vocabulary more easily because it provides effective clues to get the meaning of unfamiliar words. Once again, thank you, Tita, for your presentation. Let's move on to the next presenter. It's Widyawati with her material about remembering new English words using Lingo Kids application. So, how effective this Lingo Kids is? Well, we can listen to this material. So, to Widyawati, the time is yours.
Alright, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to the moderator who has guided this event and gave me the opportunity to deliver the material. The honorable person, Ms. Arini Nurul Hidayati, MPD, as a lecturer in the academic listening and speaking course, my beloved friends and the participants who attended this webinar. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Diawati. My ID number is 2021222039. I am an English Education Department student at Siliwang University. I will explain the topic of remembering new English words using the Lingua Kids application. Next slide, please. Alright, there will be three parts that I will describe. The first is the understanding of vocabulary and the introduction of the Lingua Kids application. The second, how are the tips for remembering new English words using the Lingua Kids application. And the last is the conclusion. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Alright. What is the vocabulary? According to Sujito 2009-24, vocabulary is defined as all the words in a language, the richness of words owned by a speaker or writer, words used in a field of science, and the last, a list of words arranged like a dictionary, as well as a brief and practical explanation. Meanwhile, the vocabulary expressed by Richards, Platt, and Weber is a set of lexemes which include single words, compound words, and idioms. Meanwhile, Follett argues that vocabulary is a word or group of words that has a certain meaning. For the explanation above, it can be concluded that vocabulary is words that have a meaning that is owned by humans to be used in language and communication. Next slide, please. Right. What is Lingua Kids application? Lingua Kids is an English vocabulary educational application with more than 3,000 vocabularies and 60 topics that can be learned by children aged 2 to 8 years. This application has a variety of interesting mini games that can be played by children. The educational content contained in this game comes from Oxford University Press. With attractive graphics and captivating music, this game can make children learn English vocabulary naturally while playing. Next slide, please. How to remembering new English words. Does anyone know how to remembering new English vocabulary so it won't be easy to forget? You can see on the screen. The first way, with songs. Choose a song with lots of words that rhyme and repeat the rhythm so that children will find it easier to remember new vocabulary and be able to sing along to the song as soon as they hear it. Children also love nursery rhymes. They can practice listening and speaking a lot of vocabulary. For example, the song 10 in the Bed for learning numbers, Old MacDonald had a farm for learning animal names, I can sing a rainbow for colors, Incy Wincy Spider for weather, the wheels on the bus for remembering facial parts. You put your right mitten in to learn the difference between left and right. If you're happy and you know it to learn first, and so on. And the second way is with Guess the Word game. Guess the Word game are usually easy to find in children's English books as one of the games to enrich English vocabulary. However, many adults also like this game. To play it, you just need to guess the word through the picture. At a higher level, usually the image presented are more complex and the number of words guessed increases. For example, in guessing English proverbs through pictures. In addition to looking at the pictures, you also need to pay attention to the number of letters and spelling correctly. And the last way is with flashcards. Flashcard is a form of educational media in the form of cards containing pictures and words whose size can be adjusted to the student face. This media is a learning media that can help in improving various aspects such as developing memory. The use of flashcard media in English vocabulary learning games makes students enjoy learning, thus motivating children to be active. Repetition of English vocabulary through flashcard media also optimizes students' memory in mastering English vocabulary. Next slide, please. Sorry. And the last conclusion, in this millennial era, not a few who use mobile phones, ranging from teenagers, parents, the elderly, and even children who are only 5 years old can use it. Not a few also use mobile phones just for communication, taking pictures, meeting friends on social media, even learning can be through mobile phones, one of which is learning to remember vocabulary. There are many ways to learn to remember new English vocabulary through gadgets. The hottest one now is the LingoKids application. In the LingoKids application, there are many features for learning English, one of which is learning to remember new vocabulary by using songs, guessing words, and using flashcards. With this application, children will easily memorize new vocabulary and certainly will not get bored easily because the application display is very attractive with various icons. Zig Ziglar said that your understanding of what you read and hear is to a very large degree determined by your vocabulary. So improve your vocabulary daily. Next slide, please. All right, and here is my references you can see on the screen. That's enough for me. Hopefully, the knowledge I provide can be useful for all of us. Thank you to all of you who have listened. Sorry if there are mistakes, I will return it to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you also, Widawati, for your amazing presentation and also your material. So, in this era, almost everyone use mobile phones, even children. So, this is where Lingo Kids come to play. There are many features for learning English in this application. One of which is learning to remember new vocabularies using songs, guessing words, and flashcards. Children will easily memorize new vocabulary and will not get bored easily. Well, once again, thank you, Widawati, for your presentation. Move on to the next presenter is Raihan Pizaki with his material about learning vocabulary with Netflix and Jukes Music. How come? These two are a large streaming platform. So how can this platform help us in learning vocabulary? Let's listen to this material. So to Raihan, the time is yours.
Thank you to the moderator that has given me the opportunity. So everyone, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Hope you are doing well. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Rambi Zaki, and I would like to say thank you for coming in webinar series 2022. It's great to see you all. So today, I'd like to bring a topic about learning vocabulary with Netflix and Juke Music. How come? Please, next slide. Yeah, so everyone, in this presentation, I divided my presentation into two sections. Namely, is the first one, why learn English with Netflix and how come you to improve your vocabulary. And the second is step and tips how to learn vocabulary with Netflix and music. So everyone, let's move to the next slide. The first, why learn with Netflix? Learning through method you find interesting and fun, like watching Netflix, is the best way to your language goals. Essentially, you will not get bored and give up halfway through. So everyone, watching English films and series on Netflix is very helpful in improving your vocabulary. Because Netflix has an endless variety of material or knowledge for you. By learning vocabulary on Netflix, you will get exposure to various vocabulary, and we will learn a lot of new words. In other words, you can help in remembering and try to practice to get more vocabulary. Then besides that, Netflix makes it easier to learn by bring up subtitles. This will make it easier for someone to remember and you get a new vocabs. So it is how that learning using Netflix media makes someone learn vocabulary be better with a fun and interesting delivery. So everyone, why choose Netflix to help learn vocabulary? Because I want someone who wants to learn, have fun, and enjoy it with us. So let's move to the next slide. Yeah, the next is how come use music to improve your vocabulary. Yes, we can. Listening English song can enhance the vocabulary skill because song is one of the media that interesting to improve your listening skill, especially improve your vocabulary. So everyone, I mean, listening to English songs can improve your vocabulary skill because songs are one of the media in interesting to improve listening skill, especially vocabulary. Therefore, the application of music, it can student learn listening easily because this is music streaming application that can provide it recording and lyric. So everyone, student can use this to enhance their listening application, and you can see the lyric application make it easy for learner listen the music because you can listen to the lyric. You can make the easier find the new glossary or vocabulary. So listening to music through this application is some interesting way to way of learning because this application you can choose genre the music they want. So I think this similarity is most effective method for your improve your vocabulary skill. I mean, so yeah, let's move to the next slide. Thank you. Next is step and tips how to learn vocabulary with Netflix and music. So the first is master your vocabulary utilizing subtitle translation. So everyone, I mean, when we start learning any language, we usually translate what we want to say from our own expression, and our teachers make a lot of the correction because of this. However, by using on conversation from TV shows on Netflix, which usually contain lots of a natural language, you can see the differences quite easily and get rid of a lot small mistake you might make. And start by choosing an English show which is you are interested in watching. Change the audio so it dub into your own language, but have the subtitle is in English. When you are watching it, write down your 4 or 5 short expression which you hear and in your own language. But with using art translate very differently but into English than the same episode. I mean, at least you watching a one episode every day, and even if different show, try and find the same expression and listen to them in English too. So the next is improve your listening skill with some everyday practice. Yeah, I mean, everyone, we don't expect you to understand everything here. But don't worry, that is normal. When you start, you may find it very difficult and frustrating. But if you watch just one short episode TV series every day, your common expression used will really help you when you are having conversation in native speaker and give you confidence to talk for longer. And the next is practice it. Next is choose the 1 or 2 music popular in among young people, especially for music, and then always listen favorite song anytime and anywhere. Please, next slide. Yeah, everyone, I have a recommended film. I mean, recommended Netflix movies. Yeah, you can see that recommended improve your vocabulary skill. Yeah, you can see everyone. So move to the next slide. Yeah, next, last slide. Conclusion: vocabulary is the most important factor in English. Without knowledge of vocabulary, nothing can be received. And learning a new language I mean learning vocabulary And mastering vocabulary enable the student to be a master in English language skill, which Netflix media, like media and music, you can easy to improve your vocabulary skill. So in the future, teacher need to manipulate several strategies to support the vocabulary learning process for students. Last but not least, vocabulary is a core component of language proficiency and provided much of the basic how well learners speak, listen, read, and write. So everyone, that's all for me. I'm so sorry for my mistake. Thank you very much for your good attention. Back. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Rehan, for your amazing material and also your presentation. So, these two are large streaming platform in the world. Not only streaming, you can also learning, in fact, in this platform. Netflix, you can do it by reading the subtitles. And in Jukes, you can do it by listening to English music. So once again, thank you, Rehan, for your presentation. Now let's move on to the next presenter. It's Rifaldi with his material about Duolingo application of vocabulary learning medium. There are a lot application like Duolingo, but what's make Duolingo different? We can learn it from this material. So to Rifaldi, the time is yours. Excuse me, Rifaldi.
All right, everyone. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thanks to moderator for hosting the meeting, and thanks to give me opportunity. I'm Rifaldi from University of Silwangi. I would like to bring a topic about Duolingo application, a vocabulary learning medium. This next slide, please. All right, this talk have three major sections, namely first, understanding of vocabulary, second, student problem of learning vocabulary in digital era, and lastly, a Duolingo application, a solution to vocabulary learning problems. All right, next slide, please. All right, first about understanding vocabulary. Vocabulary is a collection of several words that are combined so that they have a meaning. Vocabulary can be separated from four skills in language, namely this speaking, writing, listening, and reading. According to Jumiari 2010, say that vocabulary learning is the important aspect in foreign learning language. Students will improve much if they learn more words and expression. Even if students have a grammar and are excellent, they are still having difficulties to communicate English without a wide vocabulary. Next slide, please. All right. In general, there are two problems experienced by students in learning vocabulary in digital era. Number one, learning media use a dictionary which tends to be boring. Based on the teacher observation in senior high school, in
I'm sorry. I think he's having some of the connection problem. Yeah, I think he's having some internet connection problem. So let's wait just a little bit more.
I will continue this material. Can you hear my voice, everyone?
Yes, can hear your voice.
All right. Next, about the Duolingo application as a solution to vocabulary learning problems. Duolingo application is an English learning media in the form of the most popular application in the world. The aim of this application is to develop the best education in the world and make it available to everyone. In the era of rapid technological development, most students prefer to play games than reading books. This mindset certainly affects a student learning pattern, and they actually spend more time playing games than studying. Responding this problem, Duolingo application is present as medium for learning English. In this context, namely is learning vocabulary. The presence of Duolingo application, learning application, will have a good impact and is expected to be able to change student mindset that learning to memorize a vocabulary is boring. Duolingo will change the student mindset by providing very helpful supporting features such as picture question games, listening games, working on gaps, and matching the right words. These features are expected to be able to help students memorize and increase vocabulary. All right, next slide, please. Next, about the advantages of learning vocabulary using Duolingo application. Number one, language option from Duolingo application quite a lot. Among these are English, Spanish, Italian, Polish, Dutch, and Ukraine. So not only can you learn one language with the Duolingo application, but you can learn 6 languages with the Duolingo application. Number two, Duolingo application provides features in the form of adjusting student abilities. This application have 3 levels ranging from beginner, medium, and fluency. This feature will help students learn according to their ability level. Number 3, practice question that tend to be not boring. Duolingo provides game features that support vocabulary learning and are not boring, starting for filling the gaps with the correct word, guessing pictures, and listening games. Then every time we finish the game, we get the point, and that can increase our ability level. All right, next slide, please. Next, about a conclusion. It can be concluded that the Duolingo application can be a supporting medium for vocabulary learning. The reason is that Duolingo application has supporting features that make it easier for users to learn language from low to advanced level. Next slide, please. All right, I think it's enough for me. This is my references. I hope my explanation can be understood. And if there are mistakes, I apologize. I give back to moderator. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Rifadi, for your amazing material and presentation. Maybe there's A little bit connection problem, but it's okay. So, Duolingo is a digital English learning media with the most popular application in the world. To in Duolingo is used to develop the best English education and make it available to everyone. So once again, thank you, Rifaldi, for your presentation. Let's move on to the last presenter. It's Muhammad Hanif Amrullah with his material about Quizlet for vocabulary enhancement. How effective the enhancement is, we can listen to his material. So to Muhammad Hanif, the time is yours.
All right, thank you, moderator. Bismillah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. For today's, I hope you are in the good condition. First, I would like to say thank you for coming in our presentation. And yes, it's great to see you all here. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Muhammad Hanif Amrullah, and as you can see on the screen here that today's I'd like to talk about Quizlet for vocabulary enhancement highlights on its effectiveness. All right, next slide, please. Sorry. Right, here I divided my presentation into three parts. First, the important to mastery vocabulary. The second, why use Quizlet, and last but not least, exactly Quizlet as an effective application to teach and learn vocabulary. All right, next slide. All right. I'll begin by sharing the first slide with how important we have to master vocabulary. Right. In the world period, English has been the most important language for communication. As we already know, English is used for communication in practically every facet of life. As a result, understanding English was required in order to communicate effectively. Therefore, mastering the vocabulary is the first step to understand English. Al-Qahtani 2015 state that vocabulary knowledge is often viewed as a critical tool for second language learners because limited vocabulary in a second language learners impede successful communication. By knowing vocabulary, it can be some importance to deliver messages without any miscommunication. In other statement, Rivers and Noonan 1991 revealed that without an intensive vocabulary, we will not be able to use the structures and function that we might have learned for understandable communication. Therefore, mastery of adequate language vocabulary is very important for successful second language use, and in this case is English language. Right, next slide. Next slide, please. Right, next. So what can be done? From the statement before, it can be understood that vocabulary learning should be taught in the classroom directly like other skills, considering how important vocabulary mastery is. However, sometimes learning vocabulary also needs a motivation so that the learning process can run well, because motivation is also considered as an aspect that also determines the success of students in learning vocabulary. Therefore, Setiawan and Widarti 2020 state that the teachers here play an important role in providing media that can motivate and attract student attention to learn vocabulary. Thus, utilizing communication and information technology considered makes learning activities more effective and efficient, as well as attract students to learn vocabulary. Moreover, there are media based on ICT that can be used to learn vocabulary learning. And yes, one of which is Quizlet application. And so why is Quizlet application? Next slide, please. All right. Quizlet is a web-based media tool and a mobile application that has several learning programs, including flashcard and game-based quizzes that can encourage student interest in learning. Kristen in 2018 mentioned that Quizlet provide an empowering tool and enables people to study any subject anywhere at any time in effective, engaging way. Therefore, it can be understood that Quizlet is considered as an online-based flashcard that allow students to study via smartphones, online or offline, to learn words and their meanings together. And next slide. So how its effectiveness to teach and learn vocabulary? All right. According to Nation 2001, learners can quickly grasp the relationship between word form and meaning using flashcard. And in this case, Quizlet has one of these features, namely flashcard mode, where user can see words along with their meanings and picture, which is one of the technique of teaching vocabulary. Therefore, we can understand that the Quizlet application can be considered as the learning media, which use the digital flashcard with provided the picture cards and can use through electronic devices such as smartphones, PCs, online or offline, to help learners memorize the form and meaning of the word together. In line with this, Ascroft and Imri 2014 mentioned that Quizlet application contains a flashcard that could motivate the student in learning vocabulary. Apart from that, another feature, the learning modes provided in Quizlet are also designed to make students enjoy studying vocabulary and be enthusiastic in doing so. For example, students can see their score and rank in the matching game, and they also can attempt again to improve their score. So students here do not get bored easily, and they can enjoy learning the vocabulary when using technology, as is this case in Quizlet application. In line with that, Lander 2016 also state that students consider Quizlet as an entertaining tool for learning vocabulary. Furthermore, according to recent study by Kristen 2018, in her research, she said that Quizlet is beneficial in increasing student motivation to learn vocabulary, because the use of this application is considered to have contributed a lot to student interest in learning vocabulary, coupled with the features in the application, making this Quizlet application very useful in increasing motivation to learn the language. Beside that, another study conducted by Tchaikovsky and Zbarevska 2020 found that Quizlet is a useful IC tool in vocabulary learning due to its ability to incorporate integrated skill and cognitive visualization. As a result of this positive result, the Quizlet application is appropriate for increasing students' drive to study language, especially in learning vocabulary. All right. Finally, it can be concluded that the use of Quizlet based teaching and learning is very effective and can provide many benefits to teachers as well as the student, because this application also help in increasing vocabulary mastery and maximizing target result to increase student motivation in learning vocabulary. In addition, I hope in the future the Quizlet application can be considered by teachers as a medium for language learning, especially learning exciting vocabulary. And well later, this will have implication for student interest in learning vocabulary. And yes, this is our the references that I used to make my presentation, and this bring up to the end of my presentation. All right, thank you everyone for your nice attention. Wabillahi taufiq walhidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Hanif, for your amazing material and presentation. So, in short, Quizlet is an application that based on EVA classrooms, which is very effective and can provide many benefits, such as helping to increase vocabulary acquisitions and to increase students' motivation in learning vocabulary. Well, that's the presentation. All the presentation. We will go ahead and take some time for questions now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the question box in your control panel, or you can just raise your hand and we will facilitate all of you. Okay, I think we have some questions here. We have questions here. This is from Eki Rizkia Maulida. A question to Raihan Pizaki. So based on your experience in listening to songs, what kind of genre that is effective for improving your vocabulary and why? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Eki, to your question. Yeah, I think in general, especially genre music can improve your skill like listening, speaking, especially vocabulary. But if you enjoy and you feel like simple, so yeah, you can choose that genre music. And then genre music pop in considered the most common because it's heard by most people in the world. Not only that, the genre pop music also make easy for you in process learning English because easy listening music will help you to remember every lyric spoken by the singer who is the dictionary. And then listening to pop music can also feel happy because pop music, I think pop music is intended to entertain the listener. And while choosing, I think pop music to improve general in vocabulary skill because genre that is pleasant to hear and using a simple tone. I feel like all the elements that make up the song blend into to one unity. So it becomes an interesting rhythm to listen here. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Raihan, for your answer. For the answer. So, Eki, I hope you're satisfied with the answer. Let's move on to the next question. Question is from Dini Noviansi. Her question is to Redita topic. The question is, some platforms even provide freely, no purchases. Sorry. Nowadays, many platforms, apps provide us to watch movie easily from our phones, and some of them provide it freely, no purchase needed. Just need an internet connection, and you can stream or download them, which is kind of illegal. What do you think about that? Thank you.
All right, thank you for asking, Dini. I think internet users should respect works of art by not supporting piracy. The real impact is not protect ourselves from cybercrime. It will be better if people were willing to spend a little money for entertainment while keeping our personal data safe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Reza, for the answer. I hope it can clear your question, Dini. I hope you're satisfied with the answer. Let's move on to the next question. It's from Vanessa, again to Redita. And her question is regarding the difficulty of remembering English vocabulary. Can watching movies quickly, in quote, master vocabulary because the most difficult is in terms of remembering? Thank you.
Thank you for asking, Vanessa. I think one of the keys to learning fast is a fun pattern. We need to avoid pressure and stress while studying, of course. And watching movies is a fun way to learn vocabulary quickly. Watching movies that we like so that we don't feel bored. And we will remember what we heard that mentioned by the actors from the movies we watch. And as I said before, in order to make it more maximal or make it more maximum, we can take a note the vocab and its meaning. That way we can memorize vocabulary quickly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Reda, for the answer. I hope you feel satisfied with the answer, Vanessa? Let's move on to the next question from Ergin Hergiana to Hilda. There are a lot of advantages of learning vocabulary through novels, but I want to know, is there any disadvantages to teaching and learning vocabulary through novels? Thank you.
All right, thank you again for your question. So yeah, there are disadvantages of teaching vocabulary by reading novels. The first, as we know that not everyone has the passion to read thick books, while the novel, as I explained you before in my presentation, that the novel has a long number of pages. So to finish reading the novel, it cannot be finished in just one day. So it will take several days to finish it, and yeah, it might make students feel bored. And in addition, finding the right novel to teach vocabulary can also be a concern, especially for teachers with the groups of students who are not reading at the same level, or the topic maybe of the novel may not be of interest to the reader, because yeah, as we know that each student has a different interest in its topic, so they may find it difficult to concentrate. And by reading novels, we can find a lot of new vocabulary. We can learn new words and expressions, but we cannot learn the pronunciation. Like we don't know how do we pronounce the new vocabulary that we find in the novel. Maybe that's all from me.
Okay, thank you, Hilda, for the answer. And again, I hope you're satisfied with the answer, and thank you for giving question. Like is from Dede Rismaya. I'm interested in Sari's topic. I would like to ask her a question. Do you have any suggestions for songs with easy to understand vocabulary for us as learners? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dede, for your great question. I will give you a suggestion based on what I feel is a song from the Chainsmokers and Coldplay. The title is Just Like This. And then this one song for learning English is really appropriate. This song uses everyday language. These songs you can learn English terms related to hero legend. Some of the vocabulary that you can find, for example, myth, legend, and then fairy bliss. And then the second one is Play Slide by Jessie. This song is very easy to listening. The lyrics are not complicated and also use everyday language so that they are easy to understand for us as an English learners, especially for beginners. That's all. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Suddenly my laptop it just died out of nowhere. Okay. Question. Okay, thank you, Sari, for answering the question, and also thank you, Dede, for giving the question. Next question is from Intan. Intan Nabila Humaira. I'm interested in Tita's topic. How do you think we know that students are interested in short stories for media vocabulary learning? What if they are interested in different genre?
Well, thank you, Intan, for the question. Based on several journals that I read, and based on my experience, that short story do make it easier to increase our vocabulary. It means that we are interested in the story. And I think interested here can be from the storyline or from the cover of the book, or maybe the author of the book is our favorite author, or it can also be interested in the culture in the story. And I know that everyone has a different learning style. Through it can be through reading or writing, audio or audio visual. Then if they are interested in a different genre, I think we can choose the right short stories, or maybe we can let students choose the genre they like, or we can study with alternating genres. I think that's all.
Okay, thank you, Peter, for the answer. And also thank you, Nabila, for questions. Okay, I think that's all the questions that we can answer, because apparently the time, we are nearing the end of this webinar series today. And okay, yeah, thank you again to all the participants who are already asked in the chat box. And yeah, finally, now we have reached the end of this presentation. I would like to say thank you all the presenters for the great presentation, and also to the audience for the active participation. So this concludes this webinar today. We hope you have learned and enjoyed this presentation. Thank you for attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Right, thank you, moderator.
Yes, you're welcome.